Hey everyone, my name is Wedge, and boy do we have a deck for you. M15 finally became legal and standard this past weekend. Some strategies incorporated the new set while others stuck to their roots. One deck that has undergone a transformation of sorts is Mono Green Devotion. While the strategy did see some play before M15, I'll be the first of many to tell you that it's infinitely better now. Take a look. This deck is as mono green as you can get. It accelerates its mana real fast and you play giant stuff. This is the standard deck green mages have been waiting for. There are 24 lands, 19 forests, 4 Nykthos Shrine to Nyx, and 1 Darksteel Citadel. The Nykthos make perfect sense and are extremely important to this strategy. Since this is mono green, there will be a lot of devotion. You'll see. Also, the one of Darksteel Citadel. I'll explain that too. Anyways, it's a pretty simple land base. The bottom of our curve is exactly what you'd expect for Elvish Mystic, for Voyaging Satyr, and for Burning-Tree Emissary. Elvish Mystic is the standard mana ramper and there's no reason not to run him. Voyaging Satyr gets the inclusion over Sylvan Caryatid for one simple reason. It untaps Nykthos. The synergy there is it's ridiculous. A double activation of a Nykthos in the mid to late game could mean 10 to 15 or even 20 mana. Satyr is just better for this deck. The Emissary is a pseudo-ram spell. It's nice that it provides 2 devotion, but it can also help accelerate your board. On turn 2, you could play this, then a Voyaging Satyr or an Elvish Mystic. The faster you get your junk on the board, the better. That's probably the motto of this deck. At least, it would be if it wasn't so busy headbutting everything. Seriously, this strategy is so brutal. Let's move on. Courser of Kruphix has become the standard for any deck that runs forests. It's possibly the best green card in standard right now. Gains you life, doesn't die easily, and gives you 2 more devotion to green. It's an instant include. The last auto-include in this strategy has to be Polukranos. A full playset shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. 2 more devotion to green, which is great, but the real power here is that his monstrosity is relatively easy to activate when you consider the fact that you're running mono green devotion with Nykthos. Mana shouldn't be a problem unless you get Supreme Verdicted. It sounds weird. Anyways, you get the point. His monstrosity is a great mass removal spell that you will be able to activate in most of your games. It's great value. The last playset in the deck is a new card from M15. 4 Genesis Hydra are just bonkers. There's no real way to explain the work that this card does. It synergizes criminally well with Nykthos and the rest of your creatures. Even playing this when X equals 4, you have access to more than half of your creature base. Getting 2 bodies in play for the price of 1 seems great to me. Even if he gets removed immediately, it doesn't matter. You have another creature there. That's value. This is what value is. This card is so good. It's like easily one of the reasons mono green is competitive again. It's just an all-star. The rest of the creature base is made up of a 2 of and a few 1 ofs. This is primarily because the deck runs 3 Chord of Calling, so we'll just talk about that now. Chord of Calling is going to be a staple in green decks until it rotates. The triple green is meaningless here since the deck only really produces green mana. Past that, the deck generates so much mana every turn you should be able to search for anything you want. With that in mind, here's the rest of the creature base. 1 Nylea God of the Hunt, 1 Reclamation Sage, and 1 Nylea's Disciple all exist to be tutored up in specific situations. Once the correct amount of devotion is achieved, Nylea becomes a menace. Courting her up as an indestructible beater seems pretty effective, especially when her devotion requirement will be turned on far more than turned off. Reclamation Sage is for constellation strategies, control variants, and pretty much any other enchantment you don't like. You know, like Underworld connections. Nylea's Disciple is the bee's knees against any deck with a red in it. Your devotion should be high enough that playing one of these will give you an advantage, even against removal heavy red decks. It's just how aggressive your board state will be. You know, speaking of bee's knees, the last creature in the deck might be the best. 2 Hornet Queen might surprise you, but they're necessary for the success of the strategy. The matchups where this card is good, it's game-changing. Not even talking about the fact that it provides 3 devotion, the board presence the Queen gives you is unmatched in standard right now. 6 power across 5 flying creatures with Death Touch is so hard to overcome. There are spells designed to deal with this type of presence, but if your opponent doesn't have it, they're completely dead. Like, it's not even close. Hornet Queen is dumb. The last 4 cards in the deck are split between 2 Garruk Caller of Beasts and 2 Nissa WorldWaker. Garruk fits really well here, gives 2 devotion, lets you play something gigantic from your hand, but his best ability is his +1. Because you're running 29 creatures, revealing the top 5 cards of your library should give you at least 2 or 3 creatures on average. It's pure card advantage. Even if he only gets to activate once, the potential value there is too good to ignore. It's the perfect kind of mono green deck for this version of Garruk. When Nissa was revealed, everyone knew she was going to make waves. You weren't wrong. Her ability to create 4/4s is nearly impossible to deal with. Untapping forest practically gives the mono green player another turn, plus she has double green in her cost. Also, if you don't have a Nykthos out, Voyaging Satyr can untap a 4/4 elemental to block. The best thing though, remember that Darksteel Citadel I told you about? Yeah, Nissa makes it a 4/4 indestructible elemental. How dirty is that? Imagine forcing a control player to use Banishing Light on your elemental land. Oh wait, they can't because it's still a land. How do you remove this? Even if you can think of a card that does remove it, who plays that card? No one is the answer. No one plays that card. This thing is invincible. What? Okay, I think we all get that Nissa is dumb. Let's talk sideboard and matchups. Auto-includes in the board have to be Mistcutter Hydra for, islands, Reclamation Sage for Constellation strategies, or, island-based control decks that splash white. Phyrexian Revoker because haha to Planeswalkers, Underworld Connections, or anything else you don't like, and more Nylea's Disciple because seriously, burn decks are still around, so please don't lose to burn decks. Sideboard options in certain matchups. Let's do this. First up is Mono Black Devotion because I don't even have to explain why. The deck is pretty busted. Game 1, you're in control. Hornet Queen is the best card against Desecration Demon and Pack Rat. You stop them right where they stand, or fly. The point is that most of their mass removals on sideboard. While they can't deal with the bees individually, it makes for awful value trades on their part. Death Touch is king against this deck. The problem is that after game 1, they get a lot better. Drown in Sorrow and extra Bioblight probably come in against you. Those are amazing against the Queen and the rest of your deck. It also doesn't help that Genesis Hydra is pretty here. You have to be ready to deal with Lifebane Zombie, Doomblade, Golgari Charm, and Thoughtseize from them. You might be able to pull off some interesting Citizen Tactic shenanigans, but that's only if your stuff doesn't get removed beforehand. This matchup is yours to lose game 1, but after that, it's very up in the air. How well your opponent can play their deck will be the deciding factor. Of course, you could always play Nissa, then they die, so that's a thing, I guess. Mono Blue Devotion is making a comeback. I guess that'll happen when you really don't have that many bad matchups. However, this deck is pretty good against Mono Blue. They don't have the sideboard power to deal with Hornet Queen effectively unless they're running Polymorphous Jest. Even then, it'll probably just be a 1 or 2 of. The Queen fights Master of Waves insanely well, plus they don't have the removal to deal with Nissa's elemental lands. Bring in Mistcutter Hydras and just go to town. You should be okay with this matchup. The last archetype we're going to talk about is Supreme Verdict. Yes, that is an archetype. Real talk, guys. Unless you turn this into green, splashing black for Golgari Charm, you're walking on a tightrope. That being said, Supreme Verdict is the only card you're really all that worried about. Your board presence is high. You have insane value in all your creatures, plus this strategy tends to run less mana ramp and more aggressive threats, so your mid to late game draws should be higher quality. Don't get me wrong, there's no real way around having to deal with Verdict unless you change a good part of the deck, but look on the bright side. You could always run Soul of New Phyrexia and try to live the dream. Seriously though, that actually worked a couple of games, so it's worth a shot. Mono Green Devotion sacrifices protection against Supreme Verdict to go all in on an accelerated beatdown plan. Your creatures are huge, your mana is huge, everything you do is gigantic. This is the most green deck you'll see out of Standard for a long time. If you love green, at least try this strategy. It's insanely fun to play and has great matchups against most other decks. M15 has made this competitive, and that's pretty cool. You should try this out, it's super fun. What do you guys think of Mono Green Devotion? Is this something you might try out? Not gonna lie, I'm surprised Hornet Queen is as good as it is. I thought it was cool, but this cool? I'm pretty pumped about it. In coming weeks, we'll do other standard deck techs along with budget standard, modern, and hopefully budget modern as well. As always, subscribe below for the latest and most reliable Magic the Gathering information you could ever need. This is the Mana Source. I'm Wedge. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Wow.